Hey guys, Gary the Gremlin here, but I can't deal with that now. Today I've got a very special review for you Googly gang, something I've mentioned a couple times on the channel, a custom D-Rex. Wow. You've seen the thumbnail, you've seen the title, you know what we're here to do, and I'm not in the interest of wasting any more of your time. Actually, I will waste a little more of your time and ask that you first like the video and then subscribe. And actually, I want to take a brief moment to thank you all. We recently hit 40,000 subscribers here on YouTube. That's so great, and I'm so thankful for all of you watching. My original goal for the end of this year was to get to 50K, and it looks like we'll be getting there, probably plus some more. It's been a long time since I customized one of my figures with a new paint job. I think it's been the better part of a decade. This Rumble and Rampage Distortus Rex toy felt like a prime candidate for a repaint, however, since I really have no attachment to the monster's design, and because I think the paint on this toy was so lackluster. They didn't even bother to paint the claws on his arms. I found that very disappointing. So, here's all my paints. This is just a simple matte black. Oh, hold up, scratch that. Intel just reported that it's actually glossy. Wow. Then, we've got a customizer's favorite, burnt umber. Next, we're gonna run the gambit on some very fall-themed colors. Can I get a round of applause for flag red, pumpkin orange, orange sherbet, and sun-kissed peach? If you didn't actually applaud, I'm gonna come find you. To round it out, we've got a random little light lavender. I don't know, I'm just as confused as you are. And then, of course, naturally, the yang to the earlier yin, white. Each one of these paints was 58 cents at my local Walmart, and with the set of paintbrushes I also grabbed, this thing total was like $11. Not that bad a price for materials that will likely last me for a couple more customs. From the very start, I was aiming for this to be a general kind of touch-up video. You know, going in, fixing all the areas Mattel skimped on. Well, let me tell you this now, soldier, it got a lot more complicated than that. No spoilers though, so here at the very start, just kinda winging it, my first idea was to continue the white underbelly that sort of sheepishly stopped in the middle of his chest. Whatever I first tried here did not work, and I quickly panicked and wiped it all off the best I could with a paper towel. It's okay though, we lived, we laughed, we loved, and most importantly, we learned, and now, okay. We're just doing the same thing again. Oh! He's even wiping it off again, good lord. Gary never really was the same after the lobotomy, was he? Third time's the charm, and at this point, I think I had finally learned my lesson that the problem wasn't using the wrong brush or sponge or whatever, but that I had thinned my paints way too much, and that I was using a far too bright shade of white. This is now just the straight sun-kissed peach flavor of paint, and it's not a perfect color match for the already existing cream paint, but it rather easily blends into it. I put a rather liberal amount of it everywhere, really got the underside of that tail, all around the legs, even the tiny titty arms. I knew I was going to come back later and layer darker colors, so I just wanted to start with a general light coat. In what would now be another failed idea, I mixed together some of the light lavender and the flag red to create a meaty inside of the mouth color. That's why you see me also creating a harebrained attempt at protecting the teeth from any paint. Though any customizer worth their weight in plastic knows that this acrylic-based paint is not going to adhere well to these rubber gums. Like water off a duck's back. I saw the tides changing, I could see how poorly this was going to pan out, so I cut my losses and wiped out everything. This is going to be a recurring theme. I figured this whole mouth thing was overrated anyways, and I should try to add a nice dry brush to everything. Mixed up some more of my favorite sun-kissed peach with pumpkin orange and just started applying it everywhere. Seriously, what's it they used to say? The sun doesn't set on the British Empire? Well, there's not an angle you can look at this D-Rex where I didn't apply tons and tons of my sun-kissed peach and pumpkin orange combo. You know what, just to save time, let's call it pump-kissed orange from here on out. For a while, it was just aimless pump-kissed orange everywhere. Oh yeah, I was pump-kissing it for real. Mile after mile, trudging across the tundra, slapping pump-kissed ranch everywhere I went, until suddenly, it occurred to me, I like stripes. Then I started doing stripes. Oh man, I love stripes. Everywhere was gonna get a stripe. A stripe here, a stripe there, a stripe on the leg, even some weird splotches, and then, bam! That stripe don't quite look right. I think I was trying to do a subtle sort of blue thing, you know, the stripe running down the length of the body, but this is the bright stark white and it looked bad. That's a problem for future Gary though. Let's mix up some sun-kissed peach and burnt umber to make this sort of gray color, which I instantly fell in love with. Forget pump-kissed orange. Burnt-kissed umpsh is my new best friend. I started putting this everywhere, and I loved it even more. For the first time in this project, I didn't feel like I was floundering anymore, and I had a steady grasp of what I actually wanted this custom to look like. I think I struck gold when I started filling in the gaps in those previous stripes with my dear sweet burnt-kissed umpsh. Here is really where I stopped lying to myself and dropped the charade that I was simply adding some more missing detail, and got into the mindset of full, complete D-Rex makeover. The complete tipping point was here when I even painted over his big beluga brown spot. That was fully committing to repainting the whole thing. This was a place I felt pretty happy with, and this is also when my roommate asked me to move my car so he could leave the house. That was fair enough, and gave Megamind here some time to dry before another coat. Now back, since I loved my delicious burnt-kissed umpsh flavor so much, I wanted to make sure I did a bit of detailing with it. So I turned D-Rex on his side and started picking out some scales. I think I did a much better job on his left side, but I think part of that is owed to the sculpting. On this side, the scales seem much more pronounced and easier to pick out. I knew that at the end of the process, I'd want him to have some slightly sickly and scarred looking spots peeking out from under the dark skin. So I brought in some little dashes of light lavender to his nose and ears and a little under his bulge. This will mostly get covered up later, but it is the thought that counts. I went back to the paper palette and mixed up a decidedly darker shade of my favorite concoction. Putting this around the eyes and face was part of slowly building up to creating a darker spot up top, and I really like these stripes I made leading upwards. What can I say? I'm a stripey guy. Now, hold my hand. This is a big leap. I fully and rather dramatically splotched out his eyes with my new batch of burnt-kissed umpsh. In my opinion, I did him a favor. He was already so ugly. Now, at least, he's spared from ever seeing his own reflection. I also wanted to make sure to bring that color to the arm and shoulder. Really just any area that I plan in the future to make even darker, I wanted to lay down this first step in that gradient. His little booby arms also deserve some love, and though they've already been pretty thoroughly dry brushed with the sun-kissed peach, I wanted to pick out the scoots with the darker shades so they'd pop from a distance. In my opinion, these arms are not really a noticeable part of the silhouette from a distance away, so I wanted to color them rather sharply to make sure you can still see them. Here, I'm outlining these white stripes from earlier with some of the burnt-kissed umpsh, and I don't know why I'm explaining that because you can clearly see it. Here, a thunderbolt of genius came down from heaven and granted me a divine vision. That my darker mocha blend of burnt-kissed umpsh would be perfect layered over that hideous white stripe from earlier. This is honestly unfortunate. That heaven-sent moment of genius probably should have gone to someone important who could have done something good, like solve a math equation or end world hunger. Instead, it went to me, lowest of the low, a YouTuber. However unfortunate its inspiration, that beautiful stripe is one damn fine cup of coffee. I kept on chugging along, working with this color while I had it, until disaster struck. Boneheaded Gary the Gremlin, content to make the same mistake over and over again. Too hasty, I tried a wash of the regular burnt umber on the feet, and since them toes still had wet paint on them, it was a sloppy disaster. It was wiping off that sticky footy disaster when my stomach growled a growly growl of hunger, and I took a break for lunch. Whole wheat, roast beef, pepperoni, mozzarella, lettuce, and Dijon mustard if you're curious. Back to it, I'm now bringing in my sponge brush, completely loaded up with some slightly watered down burnt umber. This is going to establish a really nice dark coat before I dry brush the hell out of it. For that dry brush, I'm making a new special mix of sun-kissed peach, orange sherbet, and classic white. I can't think of a name for this one, it's too much, guys. I thought D-Rex was desperately lacking some warmth and looking a little too dusty, so this was an attempt to add some more color. Now I'm making an even darker shade of burnt-kissed umpsh, and then following that up with a burnt umber wash to be a final addition to the eye socket for that dark and mysterious raccoon look. While I had that very dark color, I wanted to pick out some of the knobby bumps on his dome, and I was again pretty surprised to find another detail that's not really symmetrical. There's much less bumps to paint on this side of his head, and to keep it from looking too asymmetrical, I just started adding random dots where there weren't even sculpted bumps. Bringing back in my most favorite of colors, the light shade of Burnt Kissed Umph, just to lather all over him and really marry all the body colors together. I had been putting off the hands and feet for some time because that first attempt was such a disaster, but I finally tackled it with some burnt umber. This mostly happened off screen since it was just such a hassle to do, but eventually I just slathered everything in a watered down burnt umber. After that, I was exhausted and ready to just call it quits for the day. It was 1:30 in the afternoon and I had started working on this at 9 in the morning. But as I lay on my bed, scrolling on my phone, I received my second divine intervention for this one video. Well, not really divine intervention, it was my other roommate responding to my Instagram story, encouraging me to finish what I had started. Well enough, because I was in the home stretch anyways. The only things left were to finish up some details. Before laying down the iris and pupils and all that, I wanted to get the back of the eyes, so I added a nice coat of the glossy black. This was the most hold your breath moment of the entire process, and I was a little messy with it, so I had to go back later and touch it up with some Burnt Kissed Umph to cover up all the spots I colored outside of the lines. Honestly, I rather like the eyes just like this. It gave a more eerie quality to it. Almost like a big dumb cow, and that gave it a more brutish, primal feel. While I still had that black on the brush, I went and painted all the nails that Mattel forgot to. I can see why. Painting these style nails is hard, especially when they're curved in at a weird angle like this one. I was fully intent to paint his dew claw, and that's when I learned this toy doesn't have a dew claw. Perks of being a mutant, I guess. I also added these subtle black stripes on the back off camera, as well as these little polka dots on his arm and shoulder. I decided he still needed some eyeballs, so I went in with a pumpkin orange and created a little sclera for him. While I was waiting for that to dry, I thought it'd be nice to revisit those teeth. I squirted some burnt umber into a paper towel and used it to wipe down the gums, and I think it worked pretty well. Made them generally look a little bit more used and weathered. Going back in for that pupil, this is a very delicate moment and you can't have any mistakes and oh, hello there. Anyways, going in real careful and... Yay! Great job. That's what I'm going to call done for now. Let's switch off my iPhone camera and go to the nice DSLR. And here he is. Wow. The difference between the original and this custom is so insane. I'm really happy with how this fella turned out for my first custom since I was still in early high school. I hope you guys like him too. Let me know in the comments what you think. I really think these mainline toys are great for customizing. I'd never customize a Hammond Collection toy or something because then there's too many joint tolerances to worry about and whatnot. But this guy, with his original lack of paint and all, great candidate. I didn't really mean to, but this finished color scheme does match the Hammond Collection T-Rex pretty well. It's a very similar set of colors, just turned out a bit more gray. Let me know in the comments what color scheme I should choose for my next repaint. I have this Wild Roar Utah Raptor I want to give a new deco, and I'd love your input on what I should do with it. I had so much fun making this project, but for my wallet, this is possibly the most disastrous thing that could have happened. Now that I've tested my skills and decided I'm not half bad at painting, I'm going to have to buy the blank Beast of the Mesozoic T-Rex, aren't I? That's it for this one, gang. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, comment below what you ate while watching. For some reason, I always love hearing that. Alright, you know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe. Gary the Gremlin, out.